And so, as you've undertaken this incredibly important and innovative work, what has been the impact that you've noticed in the lives of survivors as well as staff?
Sure. I would say, to put it simply, there's less push and pull, right? There's not this, I have really strong feelings around how we treat women, how we treat women of color specifically, that there's this idea that they're not competent enough to do things on their own, to make decisions for themselves. We make a lot of assumptions. I always do this exercise of close your eyes, and when you picture someone on utilizing systems, no one ever thinks of an affluent white person, right? I've never had anybody at least confess that. And so it's one of those things where I tell people, you're talking to an adult here. There's an adult who's making adult decisions and coming to us as an adult, and therefore they should be treated as a person who can make decisions for themselves. The other thing is I feel like having that state of mind, having that mentality, having that way of providing services is that it encourages autonomy. It encourages honesty on both sides and fortifies empowerment. And again, one of those buzzwords, we empower people. It's like, okay, are you? Tell me, give me examples of what that empowerment looks like. And that's part of the work, is that I love to talk about examples because that's proof in the pudding. That's the data, right? That's the qualitative data that lets you know that you are walking the walk and talking the talk, right? Or not just talking the talk. And so it's so much more fulfilling. Maybe not while you're in it, but when you take a step back and you say, so I'll give you the example of when a client declines a service. It's amazing how the implicit thought is like, oh, I've done all this work. How dare you? Or, well, what are you here for? Or what do you want? And then I say, this person may have come from a space where they have never been able to make decisions for themselves. And for the first time in a long time, they have had the ability and have been given the option to say no. Honor it. Tell them, okay, well, tell me how I can better assist you. And close your mouth and listen. One, you have less work and energy. And now you're empowering this person to think about what's best for them. And maybe they may not know the tool, maybe they may not know the resource, but they certainly, assuredly know what they need. And it might be to be left alone. A story that I have that I really love, and I talk about it all the time because it's one of the ones that really helped change my frame of mind. About 4 years ago now, a client came with her 1-year-old, or a survivor came with her 1-year-old. And when she came, she was a little quiet, talking about, like, again, being culturally responsive. She was from an African nation. I don't remember which African nation it was, which African country it was. But I remember, the assumption of like, okay, maybe this person is being quiet and because of their culture or because of whatever. Again, making assumptions, but either way, it still caused everyone to step with caution and just make sure that they were being attuned, trying to be attuned. And so we're a 90-day program. Let me say this: we've had people, stay with us for almost 2 years. So 90 days is just a number that we put as part of the program framework. But I remember, we talked about everything and all that. And she said, okay, but we noticed like for the first almost 6 to 8 weeks, she just was in her room. She'd come out, eat, take the baby on a walk, come back in. And it just seemed like she wasn't really actively participating in our programming, in all the groups. Case management seemed like more of a task to be checked off than to do. But we still honored it because it was an opportunity to interact. And then she came down one day and she said, Miss Toshira, I just want you to know, I promise you on my 90th day, I'm going to be out of here. And I said, You don't have to rush. You do what you need to do, what's best for you and your baby. And she said, no, I'm telling you. And excuse my language, sure as shit stinks. On the 91st day, she was in her new apartment. And on that day, she came back to get some diapers or something. And she said, I just want you to thank you. I had been running for months and you let me rest. You let me rest without disturbing me. And that's all I needed. I needed to rest, to get my mind together and to make a plan. And you let me rest. And I'm just so grateful for you. And, she just sat there and cried. She's like, and now I get to start all over with my baby and I. And I remember thinking, this is why we do what we do the way that we do what we do. Don't make assumptions, because we could have made assumptions at this person. That's the old school thing. This person's lazy. This person's doesn't want to do anything. They're just here to do all of these things. But instead of having those, and again, if you have the thoughts, don't feel ashamed of it, honor it and change it. Have a second thought. And I remember thinking, every time I'm having a hard time, I think about this person knew what was best for her, and I had to trust it, and the staff had to trust it. And she said on the 90th day she was moving out, and on the 91st day she spent the night in her apartment. How incredible is that? And that sounds like a fake story, but it's the truest story I could ever tell. And I remember thinking, you got to keep pushing. And shortly thereafter, the collaborative came together and I was able to be a part of it. And I remember thinking, yeah, let's do this. Let's make sure that we're doing what we can to ensure that the most marginalized people, the most underserved people, no longer have to be treated as though they are subservient, not as important, not adults and humans. Let's get back to humanity. And so it's been quite a journey, and I'm just so happy to continue to do it, truly.
An amazing story, and I'm going to keep that story. I'm going to think about that story when I find myself in those moments as well, right?
Absolutely. It's just important to honor the privilege that you have in being able to make decisions, and honoring the privilege in the moment when you are serving. There's privilege in being able to serve, and we don't often think about that a person is relying on you to know what is best. And it's okay to be honest to say when you don't know what's best. And that's where the honesty piece comes in. It's a two-way street. And if you're anticipating that someone is going to be honest with you and don't like it when they're not, you also in return need to honor that and do the same. And so it's just, I know it's easier said than done, but I think, again, it's just really important, though, to still stay on that path and on that journey to treat others as you would want to be treated.